Hello, beautiful souls. I need to share this message immediately. My guides are coming through so strongly right now with urgent divine downloads about a specific group of you. If you're feeling drawn to this reading, there's a reason. The energy I'm picking up is incredibly intense, and I'm being shown very clearly that this message is time sensitive. I'm sensing that many of you have been going through a profound personal transformation lately. You've been doing this inner work, really focusing on your growth and spiritual development. Maybe you've started meditation, journaling, or just been more intentional about your healing journey. And while you've been in this space of growth, there's been this person on your mind, someone who feels significant, someone you share a deep soul connection with. What's fascinating is that as I tune into this energy, I'm getting such strong confirmation that while you've been focused on your own development, this person has been secretly observing your transformation from afar. They're carrying so much emotional weight right now. I'm literally feeling this heaviness in my chest as I connect with their energy. They're struggling with these intense emotions about you, but they're keeping everything bottled up inside. I'm getting such clear divine confirmation about this, particularly for those of you who've been waking up between 3 and 5 in the morning, thinking about this person. That's not a coincidence. I'm also seeing the numbers 1111 and 222 flashing in my mind. If you've been seeing these numbers repeatedly, that's another validation that this message is for you. What's really interesting is that I'm being shown the Tower card emerging in the shadow position, and the energy around it is revealing something crucial about the inner turmoil they're experiencing. There's the sense of something about to break open, like a dam that can't hold back the water much longer. The divine feminine energy is so strong here. I'm feeling waves of intuitive knowing coming through. Your person's higher self is desperately trying to communicate something important about their current emotional state. I can feel their struggle so clearly. It's like they're fighting this internal battle between reaching out to you and maintaining their distance. The high priestess is coming through reversed, and she's highlighting all these secrets being kept. But what's really significant about this energy is the Eight of Swords is showing me their self-imposed prison so clearly right now. They've built these walls around themselves, trying to keep their emotions contained, but it's becoming harder and harder for them to maintain this isolation. I'm feeling this intense pressure in my chest as I connect with their energy. It's like they're struggling to breathe under the weight of everything they're holding back. And now the Six of Cups is coming forward with such powerful energy. Oh my goodness, the soul memories this card is bringing up. I'm getting such clear visions of past moments you've shared together. For some of you, these might be memories from this lifetime, but for others, I'm sensing these are deep soul memories being awakened. They're experiencing these intense emotional flashbacks too, even though they might not understand what's happening. I'm hearing so clearly from their higher self that your recent growth and transformation has been like a spiritual alarm clock for them. It's waking up parts of their soul they tried to keep dormant. You know those moments when you suddenly remember something from the past and it hits you with such force that it takes your breath away. That's what they're going through right now. The guides are showing me that between 3 and 5 in the morning, their soul is especially active, processing these memories and emotions. I'm seeing that many of you have been finding objects or coming across photos that remind you of them. These aren't coincidences. Spirit is confirming these are divine breadcrumbs, showing you that this connection is very much alive and active on a soul level. Some of you might have even noticed they're viewing your social media or somehow keeping tabs on your journey from a distance. They're drawn to your energy like a moth to a flame, even though they're trying to resist it. Their ego mind is in this intense battle with their soul's truth right now. The walls they built to protect themselves are starting to crumble, and it's honestly terrifying them. But what's really beautiful about this Six of Cups energy is how it's gently but persistently reminding them of the authentic connection you share. It's like their soul is whispering, remember, remember, remember. I'm getting such strong confirmation that this is all happening in divine timing. Your transformation isn't just about you. It's creating this ripple effect that's catalyzing their own awakening. They might be fighting it, but their higher self is working overtime to help them recognize and embrace these deeper truths. The guides are showing me that many of you have been having really vivid dreams about this person, especially dreams about past moments you've shared. This is your souls communicating while your conscious minds are at rest. For those of you feeling waves of unexpected emotion washing over you, especially during quiet moments or right before bed, I'm being told these are often their emotions you're picking up on. The connection between you is so strong that you're energetically feeling what they're going through. Your guides want you to know that while this intensity might feel overwhelming at times, sometimes you need to just trust that all of this intensity has a divine purpose. Let me pull some more cards to understand what's really happening beneath the surface with their emotions right now. Oh, wow. The King of Cups just fell out while I was shuffling, and it's in the shadow position. This is so telling about their emotional state right now. When I see this King of Cups in shadow, I'm feeling this deep ocean of emotions they're carrying inside. You know how sometimes you can look at someone and tell they're holding back tears? That's the energy I'm getting here. They're trying so hard to maintain this composed exterior, but underneath, there's this whole world of feelings they're struggling to process. The guides are showing me that their emotional depth is way bigger than anyone around them realizes, especially you. Looking at this King of Cups with the tower we saw earlier, I'm understanding why timing feels so critical right now. It's like watching a pot of water right before it boils over. Their emotions have been building and building, and they can't keep the lid on much longer. Some of you might be feeling this in your own body, like random waves of emotion hitting you, especially in those quiet hours between 3 and 5 a.m. That's when their guards are down and their true feelings are flowing most strongly. I'm being shown that they've been watching your transformation from afar. Maybe you've been getting those little hints, when you randomly check your phone and see they viewed your social media, or you keep finding old photos or memories of them popping up out of nowhere. These aren't accidents. Their higher self is trying to keep this connection alive while their human self figures things out. The Eight of Swords we saw earlier is really making sense now. They've been their own worst enemy, building these walls around their heart. But here's what's beautiful. Their higher self is showing me that all this resistance has actually been helping them grow. It's like they needed to feel completely trapped by their own barriers before they could realize they're the only one who can break them down. I'm getting such strong guidance about dreams right now. Many of you have probably been having more vivid dreams lately, maybe even dreams where you're just talking with them or sharing peaceful moments together. Your souls are working things out in the dream space because it feels safer for them than facing these feelings in the physical world. They're going through this really intense period of emotional maturing. The guides are showing me that all the numbers and signs you've been seeing, especially if you keep noticing the numbers from their birth month or running into things that remind you of them, these are all confirmations that this personal growth process is right on track. Their higher self is working overtime, helping them understand that being emotionally vulnerable isn't a weakness. Let me pull another card to understand what's really holding them back from expressing these deep emotions. The Four of Pentacles just came forward, and immediately I'm feeling this intense grip. Like someone holding on so tightly, their knuckles are turning white. This perfectly shows their current emotional state. They're desperately trying to keep control, to hold everything in, even though their walls are crumbling inside. I'm getting such a clear vision of them sitting alone, maybe late at night, looking at their phone, wanting to reach out, but then putting it back down. The energy feels so heavy, like they're carrying this massive weight of unexpressed feelings. Their higher self is showing me how they watch you growing, becoming more radiant and independent each day, and it's triggering something deep within them. Every time they see you stepping more into your power, it's like a mirror being held up to their own inner work that needs to be done. You might be feeling this too. Maybe you've been noticing doors literally closing around you lately, or having dreams about new pathways opening up. These aren't just random occurrences. The spirits are showing me that this is all part of a bigger shift happening. Some of you might even be experiencing these weird moments where you're just doing something totally ordinary, like washing dishes or driving to work, and suddenly you're flooded with thoughts of them. That's their energy reaching out to you, even if they're not consciously aware of it. The Four of Pentacles combined with that tower energy we saw earlier, it's painting such a clear picture. They're literally holding on for dear life to their emotional control, but the universe is orchestrating this beautiful breakdown of their walls. It's like watching someone trying to hold on to sand. The tighter they grip, the more it slips through their fingers. Their higher self knows this control isn't serving them anymore, but their human self is terrified of what happens when they let go. I'm being shown that for many of you, this person comes through strongest in your energy field between 3 and 5 in the morning. If you've been waking up during these hours, feeling their presence, or just feeling emotionally overwhelmed, this is why. It's when their guards are lowest, when their soul is most honest about what they're feeling. The guides want you to know that this emotional mastery journey they're on, it's not just about them learning to express feelings. It's about creating a foundation strong enough to hold the depth of this connection. Right now, they're like a master painter who's afraid to use their favorite colors. They have all this capacity for love and emotional depth, but they're terrified of making a mess, of losing control if they really let themselves feel it all. Your own growth and independence is actually playing a crucial role in this process. Every step you take in your own development is like a gentle nudge to their soul, reminding them that true strength isn't about control. It's about having the courage to be vulnerable. Their higher self is working overtime to align their human actions with their soul's truth. But timing is so delicate right now. It's like watching a flower slowly gathering the strength to bloom. And you know what's fascinating? Their higher self is showing me something so profound about their role in your journey. Let me pull another card to understand this energy better. The Two of Wands is coming forward, and wow, the energy is so clear. They're standing at this massive crossroads right now, caught between their instinct to protect and guard you from afar and this overwhelming urge to step forward and be more present in your journey. I'm feeling such a strong guardian energy from their higher self. It's like they've always seen themselves as this quiet protector in your life, watching over your growth from a distance. But now, as you're stepping more and more into your power, they're realizing that this role needs to evolve. Some of you might have been feeling this lately. Maybe you've noticed this weird sense of being watched over, especially when you're taking bold steps in your career or personal growth. That's their energy checking in on you, making sure you're okay. What's really interesting is how your own growth is actually triggering their spiritual awakening. The Two of Wands shows this perfect moment of decision. Do they stay in this comfortable role of distant protector, or do they step into something more authentic? Their higher self is really pushing them to understand that they're not just here to protect you. There's this beautiful teacher-student dynamic between you both, where you take turns learning from each other. I'm getting such strong validation that many of you are suddenly finding yourself teaching others what you've learned, maybe in ways you never expected. It's like you're becoming this light for others, and your person sees this. They're watching you step into this teacher role, and it's making them question their own role in your story. For those resonating with this message, you might have been experiencing some unexpected recognition lately, especially at work or in your spiritual communities. Maybe you're finding yourself handling situations with a wisdom you didn't know you had. These aren't coincidences. They're signs of your expanding energy field, and your person is feeling all of it. Their higher self is showing me how they're struggling with this balance between maintaining emotional control and expressing their truth. It's like they want to tell you how proud they are of your growth, how much they admire your courage, but they're caught in this old pattern of being the silent guardian. Some of you might be feeling waves of protective energy, especially in those early morning hours between 3 and 5 a.m. That's when their guard is down and their true feelings are flowing most freely. The guides are showing me that this is all part of a bigger shift in your connection. Their protective nature isn't meant to stay stagnant. It's evolving into something more supportive, more equal. They're learning that true protection sometimes means being vulnerable enough to stand beside someone rather than watching from afar. It's like they're being called to step out of the shadows and into a more active role in your journey. But this transition is bringing up all sorts of fears and doubts for them. And now, as we explore the sacred space between protection and vulnerability that they're navigating, I feel drawn to pull another card. The Knight of Pentacles emerges, and instantly I'm understanding more about their careful, methodical approach to processing these deep emotions they're experiencing. This connects so perfectly with that King of Cups energy we saw earlier. It shows how they're trying to master their emotions through practical, measured steps. You see, their higher self is revealing that they're actually being very strategic about how they handle these intense feelings. They're not just sitting there watching you. They're actively working through their emotions in their own quiet, determined way. Some of you might have been feeling their steady, unwavering presence lately, even if they seem physically distant. It's like they're this silent guardian, carefully planning each move. I'm getting such clear validation that many of you are experiencing sudden breakthroughs in your own skills and abilities right now. Maybe you found yourself mastering things that used to challenge you, or you're suddenly being asked to step up and teach others. This is no accident. Your growth is directly connected to their careful observation and protective energy. Remember that Four of Pentacles we saw earlier? It's showing up again in my mind, connecting with this Knight's energy. It reveals how their need for control is actually serving a higher purpose right now. They're holding back, yes, but it's not just about fear. It's about timing. They're watching you bloom, and they're scared that rushing in might disrupt your beautiful transformation. I'm being shown that for many of you, you're noticing these strange patterns, especially between 3 and 5 in the morning. Maybe you're waking up at these times, feeling this protective presence around you. That's when their guard is lowest, when their higher self is most active and watching over you. The Eight of Swords energy we saw before makes so much more sense now. They've created this self-imposed distance not to hurt you, but to give you space to grow. Your guides are really emphasizing that this is all divinely timed. Their methodical, almost slow approach isn't a rejection. It's actually a form of deep respect for your journey. They're learning to transform their protective instincts into something more balanced, more supportive. Like some of you might be feeling called to document these changes you're going through, these unexpected validations of your progress. The guides are saying this documentation will be important later. I'm sensing that many of you are stepping into teaching roles right now, maybe finding yourself naturally guiding others without even realizing it. This is part of your expansion, and your person sees this. They're not just watching, they're taking notes, learning from your courage, your willingness to step into your power. Their higher self is showing me how their admiration for you grows stronger with each step you take forward. The energy here is so clear. While they might seem distant or overly cautious, they're actually deeply engaged in your journey, processing their own growth alongside yours. Think of it like two dancers learning a new routine separately before coming together, each mastering their own steps to create something beautiful when the time is right. This beautiful dance of separate growth you're both experiencing brings me to pull another card, and wow, the Three of Wands appears with such powerful timing. I'm immediately feeling this surge of expansive energy, like someone just opened a window in a room that's been closed for too long. This is fascinating because it's showing me how your person is starting to see possibilities they've been blind to before. Your guides are showing me this really clear image right now. It's like your person has been standing behind this thick glass wall, watching you bloom and transform. But now, with this Three of Wands energy, they're starting to place their hands on that glass, and they can feel it starting to crack under the pressure of their emotions. All that control they've been trying to maintain with that King of Cups energy we saw earlier, it's becoming harder and harder for them to keep those feelings contained. I'm getting such strong validation for those of you who've been feeling watched lately, especially during your moments of achievement or growth. Maybe you've been developing new skills and somehow you just know they're aware of it, even if you haven't been in direct contact. The guides are showing me that many of you are experiencing these intense waves of emotion that don't feel quite like your own. That's their energy spilling over because they simply can't contain it anymore. The Tower energy we saw earlier is really making sense now. It's like their emotional walls are going through this necessary breakdown. I'm seeing that for many of you, you're getting these strong intuitive hits or bursts of inspiration, especially between 3 and 5 in the morning. That's when their higher self is most active, most connected to you. They're realizing that these self-imposed barriers, this 8 of Swords energy of feeling trapped, it's not just hurting them anymore. It's creating this unnecessary distance between you both. Your guides want you to know that their protective nature is actually transforming into something really beautiful. It's like watching someone learn to shift from being a guardian to becoming a partner. This Three of Wands is showing me they're finally starting to see a future they weren't ready to acknowledge before. Some of you might be noticing them showing up in subtle ways, maybe viewing your social media, or you're hearing about them asking about you through mutual connections. I'm being strongly guided to tell you to keep documenting your journey right now, especially these unexpected achievements and breakthroughs you're experiencing. It might seem random, but trust me, there's divine timing at play here. Your growth is actually helping them gather the courage they need to eventually step forward. They're watching you step into your power, and it's inspiring them to face their own internal battles. Your guides are showing me this image of a sunrise. You know that moment just before the sun breaks over the horizon? That's the energy we're in right now. There's this sense of anticipation of something beautiful about to unfold. Keep focusing on your own light, your own path. Their higher self is orchestrating this shift from silent observation to something more active, more engaged. And just as this beautiful sunrise energy is unfolding, I'm being drawn to pull another card for deeper clarity about what's happening beneath the surface. The Page of Cups is coming through with such gentle but powerful energy right now. This is so interesting because it's showing me their true emotional state. There's this pure, almost childlike feeling of wonder and love that they're carrying inside, but they're so uncertain about how to express it. I need to share something important that's coming through really strongly. Your guides are showing me that your person is going through much deeper emotional processing than what's visible on the surface. You know how sometimes you can feel completely fine on the outside, but inside there's this whole storm of feelings happening? That's exactly what they're experiencing right now. Those tower moments we saw earlier have really shaken their emotional walls. And now with this Page of Cups energy, their true feelings are starting to bubble up like a spring. I'm getting such clear validation for those of you who've been feeling these random waves of emotion lately, especially during quiet moments. Maybe you're just going about your day and suddenly feel this surge of feelings that don't quite feel like your own. That's because the connection between you is so strong right now, you're actually picking up on their emotional process. The guides are showing me that this is happening particularly strongly between 3 and 5 in the morning. That's when their guards are down and their true feelings are most active. What's really fascinating is how their higher self is showing me their internal struggle. Remember that King of Cups energy we saw earlier? They're really trying to maintain this image of being totally in control, completely masterful over their emotions. But underneath, with this Page of Cups, they're actually feeling very vulnerable and almost innocent in their feelings for you. It's like they're learning how to feel all over again. And honestly, it's kind of overwhelming them. I'm seeing really clearly that they watch your growth and transformation with this mix of awe and fear. They're absolutely amazed by your evolution, but it's also bringing up all these feelings they've been trying to keep locked away. That Four of Pentacles energy we saw earlier shows how tightly they've been trying to hold on to control, but it's slipping through their fingers like water. Every time they see you step more into your power, it weakens their grip a little more. Your guides want you to know that this process is exactly as it should be. For those of you feeling extra sensitive lately or picking up on random thoughts of them, you're not imagining it. They're energetically reaching out, even if they're not ready to do it in the physical world yet. The Page of Cups is showing me that beneath all their defenses, there's this pure, untouched love that's been protected and preserved, waiting for the right moment to be expressed. I'm feeling guided to tell you that this emotional transformation they're going through is absolutely necessary. It's like watching someone learn to swim. At first, they're terrified of letting go of the edge of the pool, but gradually they're realizing that they can actually float on their own. Their higher self is showing me that while they might seem distant or quiet in the physical world, spiritually, they're more engaged with your connection than ever before. And you know what's really beautiful about this whole journey they're on? Their higher self just showed me something so profound about how they're processing all of this. I'm being drawn to pull another card for deeper clarity. And wow, Temperance comes forward with such powerful energy. This is fascinating because it's showing me how their analytical mind is actually becoming their greatest teacher right now. They're someone who's always tried to think their way through everything, always wanting to understand and control, but now they're learning there's this whole other way of knowing. I'm getting such a strong message about the hours between 3 and 5 in the morning. For those of you who've been waking up during these hours, maybe feeling drawn to meditate or just sitting in this weird, peaceful energy, that's when they're most connected to their higher self, when all their mental barriers are softer. Their analytical mind is actually working with their spiritual awareness instead of against it for once. You know how sometimes you'll be doing something totally normal, like washing dishes or driving, and suddenly you'll get this flash of understanding about them. That's their higher self reaching out to yours. They're watching your growth so intensely, even though they might be physically distant. I keep seeing this image of someone standing at a window, looking out at a beautiful garden growing. That's how they're observing your transformation. The previous energies we saw with the King of Cups and Eight of Swords are shifting now. Instead of fighting against their emotions while feeling trapped in their thoughts, they're learning to find balance. Temperance is showing me they're starting to understand that they can be both logical and emotional, both protected and open. It's like they're finally realizing they don't have to choose between their head and their heart. I'm getting such clear validation for those of you who've been seeing the number 222 everywhere. That's a direct message about this balance they're working towards. And if you've been having dreams about water lately, maybe oceans, rivers, or even just rain, that's showing how their emotional walls are dissolving. Their higher self is so carefully orchestrating this whole process. Something really interesting just came through for those of you who've recently found yourself teaching or guiding others without really meaning to. That's actually mirroring what's happening with your person. Just as you're naturally stepping into this leadership role, they're learning to embrace their own spiritual growth. That tower energy we saw earlier isn't just breaking down their old barriers. It's making space for this new way of being. Their analytical mind, which used to be their biggest obstacle, is now becoming their bridge to understanding all these spiritual concepts. Every time they try to analyze why they feel so drawn to you, why they can't seem to get you out of their mind, it leads them deeper into their spiritual awakening. It's like they're solving a puzzle that keeps revealing more and more layers of truth about themselves and this connection. And now, as I sit with their energy in this moment, watching how their higher self is working through all these spiritual revelations, I'm being drawn to pull another card. The Seven of Pentacles comes forward, and oh my goodness, this is so perfect with what we were just talking about. This card is showing me how they're in this deep period of reflection, really taking stock of everything they've invested emotionally. You know, it's interesting because their higher self is showing me this beautiful image of someone tending to a garden at dawn. They're actually doing this incredibly important inner work right now, even though it might look like nothing's happening on the surface. I keep hearing this message that silence doesn't mean stagnation. For those of you who've been feeling watched while you're just going about your day, maybe while you're grocery shopping or walking your dog, that's actually them on an energetic level. Their soul is so tuned into your frequency right now. I'm specifically getting a message about the time between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. If you've been feeling these random waves of emotion during these hours, like suddenly feeling tearful or overwhelmed with love, that's when their energy is most strongly connecting with yours. Their higher self is showing me how they're processing all these feelings they've been trying so hard to contain. Remember that Four of Pentacles energy we saw earlier? That was all about holding on tight, trying to keep everything locked down. But now, with this Seven of Pentacles, they're learning to tend to their emotions instead of guard them. I'm hearing such a clear message about career opportunities too. If you've suddenly been presented with new challenges at work or unexpected chances to show your skills, that's actually mirroring their inner process. Just like you're being asked to step up and grow, they're being pushed to expand beyond their comfort zone. The most fascinating thing is how their higher self is using this period of watching you as a teaching tool. Every time they see you succeed, every time they witness you embracing your power or showing vulnerability, it's like a key turning in a lock within them. That tower moment we saw earlier isn't just about their walls coming down. It's about building something entirely new from those fallen stones. I keep seeing this image of someone standing at a crossroads, but instead of feeling lost, they're taking time to really feel into which path is right. That's what this Seven of Pentacles is all about. It's not just waiting, it's active spiritual preparation. Their soul is doing such deep work right now, learning to balance their need for protection with their desire for genuine connection. For those of you seeing their zodiac sign everywhere or finding yourself randomly thinking of them first thing in the morning, these are all confirmations that this inner work is happening. They're realizing that all their old ways of handling emotions, especially that King of Cups energy we saw earlier, trying to master and control their feelings, it's just not working anymore. This isn't about control now, it's about cultivation. It's like they're learning to be a gardener of their own heart, and watching your growth has become their greatest teacher in this process. And you know what's so fascinating about this garden metaphor? Their higher self is showing me it's leading us right into this next profound revelation. The Hanged Man has just appeared in our spread, and wow, the energy shift is so powerful. This card is showing me how they're literally suspended between two worlds right now, the logical world they've always known, and this new spiritual awareness that's washing over them like waves. I keep seeing this image of someone trying to read a book in the rain. The pages are getting wet, the ink is running, but they're still desperately trying to make sense of everything in their old analytical way. Their higher self is showing me how frustrating this is for them. They're used to having all the answers, used to being able to think their way through everything. But this connection, this energy between you two, it doesn't work like that. It's not something they can solve like a puzzle. I'm getting such strong validation for those of you who've been waking up between 3 and 5 in the morning with sudden insights about them. That's when the veil is thinnest and their higher self is most actively working to help them understand these deeper truths. If you've been finding yourself randomly sharing wisdom or giving advice to others that somehow perfectly relates to their situation, that's not a coincidence. Your guides are using you as a channel to help them wake up. The energy here is so interesting because while we saw that King of Cups earlier showing their struggle for emotional control, now with the Hanged Man, it's like they're being forced to see things from a completely different perspective. Their higher self is showing me this beautiful image of a key floating in water. They thought they lost the key to understanding this connection, but really they just needed to stop trying to grab it and let it float to the surface naturally. For those of you who've been feeling like someone's watching your social media or keeping tabs on your progress from afar, yes, that's absolutely happening on an energetic level. But it's deeper than just curiosity. Every time you post about your growth, every time you share your wisdom, it's like a little earthquake in their consciousness. They're learning through your example, even if they're not ready to admit it yet. I'm hearing this really clear message about divine timing. If you've been seeing 1111 or 333 a lot lately, especially during moments when you're thinking about them, that's your confirmation that this suspended state they're in is exactly where they need to be right now. Their higher self is showing me how all these moments of frozenness, all this apparent inaction, it's actually an essential part of their spiritual metamorphosis. Just like a caterpillar has to completely dissolve before becoming a butterfly, they're in this cosmic soup of transformation right now. The Eight of Swords energy we saw earlier is starting to make even more sense now. These self-imposed barriers they've built aren't just walls anymore. In this suspended state, they're starting to see them for what they really are. Illusions. Every time you achieve something new, every time you step more fully into your power, it's like another one of these illusory barriers becomes transparent to them. And while these illusions are becoming transparent to them, I'm being guided to pull another card about what's really happening in their internal world right now. The Four of Swords just fell out. And wow, this is such a powerful confirmation of everything we've been talking about. Their higher self is showing me this image of someone who's been running and running, trying to stay ahead of their feelings until they finally just couldn't run anymore. You see, this Four of Swords energy, it's like a divine timeout. I'm hearing so clearly that they've been forced into this period of rest and reflection, even though it's the last thing they wanted. For those of you who've been feeling these random waves of exhaustion or sadness that don't feel like your own emotions, that's them. You're picking up on their energy because during these quiet moments when they can't distract themselves anymore, their thoughts always come back to you. I'm getting such strong validation for those of you who've been feeling extra nurturing lately, maybe taking care of others more than usual, or feeling drawn to heal and support people around you. That's actually mirroring what they're learning right now, how to nurture and care for their own wounds. Their higher self is showing me how they've been trying so hard to keep up this image of having everything under control, especially with that King of Cups energy we saw earlier. But now, in this forced period of rest, all those carefully maintained walls are starting to feel more like a prison. The really fascinating thing is how your growth journey is affecting them. Every time you post something positive, every time you share your light with the world, it's like a little earthquake in their soul. They're watching you become this incredible force of nature, and it's triggering something deep within them. For those of you who've been getting these random, strong, intuitive hits about their situation, especially during meditation or quiet moments, that's their higher self communicating with you. I keep seeing this image of a butterfly emerging from its cocoon, but the interesting thing is I'm seeing it in slow motion. This Four of Swords is showing me that what feels like stagnation to them is actually this beautiful, necessary transformation happening behind the scenes. Remember that Tower card we saw earlier. These moments of forced rest and reflection are actually helping those walls crumble in the gentlest way possible. For those of you who've been waking up with these intense feelings of knowing between 3 and 5 a.m., that's when they're most actively processing these revelations in their dream state. Their higher self is showing me how they're learning to surrender to this process, even though their logical mind is still trying to fight it. It's like they're finally starting to understand that some things can't be figured out. They can only be felt. The energy here is shifting in such a beautiful way. While they're in this Four of Swords period of reflection, there's this deep inner wisdom that's finally starting to emerge. It's like all the noise has been stripped away, and in this silence, they're beginning to hear their own heart clearly for the first time. Their higher self wants you to know that this forced rest isn't a pause in your journey together. It's actually a crucial part of it. And in this silence they're experiencing, I'm being shown something so profound about how they're viewing your transformation. The Queen of Pentacles just emerged from the deck, and immediately I'm feeling this wave of recognition, their recognition of how deeply you've grown into your power. It's like they're watching you from afar, seeing how you've become this incredible force of stability and abundance in your own right. I am being shown these flashes of moments where they catch glimpses of your life, maybe through social media, maybe through mutual friends, or just through that energetic connection you share. And every time they see how well you're doing, how grounded you've become, it stirs up this intense mixture of pride and pain within them. It's almost like watching someone they love so deeply blooming into exactly who they're meant to be, but feeling like they can't be part of that story right now. Their higher self is showing me this really interesting dynamic. You know how sometimes you get this sudden feeling of being watched, especially when you're in your element? Maybe when you're giving advice to someone, or when you're achieving something significant in your career. That's them. Their energy is so strongly connected to these moments of your triumph. But here's the thing. They're struggling with this intense internal battle. I'm being guided to look deeper into this Queen of Pentacles energy, and what's coming through is fascinating. You see, while they're so proud of your growth, of how you've built this beautiful, stable life for yourself, there's this fear that they might disrupt everything if they step forward. It's like they're standing at the edge of a beautiful garden, your garden, afraid that their presence might somehow disturb the peace you've created. For those of you who've been experiencing these sudden waves of emotion between 3 and 5 in the morning, that's when their guard is down, when their higher self is most active. I'm seeing these recurring dreams they're having of you, but it's always from a distance, always watching, never participating. This connects so strongly with that Eight of Swords energy we saw earlier. They've essentially created their own prison of observation. The guides are showing me that there's this profound transformation happening in how they see themselves in relation to you. Remember that Tower card from earlier? It's like every time they witness your growth, another brick falls from their emotional walls. They're realizing that while they've been stuck in this King of Cups energy, trying to master their emotions by suppressing them, you've been mastering yours by embracing them. I'm getting such strong validation for those of you who've been receiving unexpected compliments about your stability lately, or finding yourself naturally stepping into leadership roles. These aren't random occurrences. They're direct reflections of how their higher self sees you. They're watching you step into this Queen of Pentacles energy with such grace, and it's stirring something deep within them. Their higher self is channeling this message so clearly. They're approaching a breaking point in this pattern of silent observation. The energy is shifting from watching to wanting to act, but they're caught in this delicate dance between divine timing and their own emotional impulses. For those of you who've been feeling these sudden bursts of accomplishment or pride that seem to come from nowhere, that's them energetically celebrating your wins, even if they can't do it in person yet. And as we reach this pivotal moment in your journey together, the World card emerges with such powerful energy. I'm feeling wave after wave of completion, of cycles finally coming full circle. Your guides are showing me so clearly how all of this waiting, all of this silent observation from them has been perfectly orchestrated for both of your highest good. You see, their higher self is revealing that these emotional walls they built weren't just barriers. They were actually classrooms. Every time they watched you grow stronger, every moment they witnessed you stepping into your power, it was teaching them something profound about their own journey. The Tower card we saw earlier makes so much sense now. It wasn't just about their walls crumbling. It was about building something new from those fallen pieces. I'm getting such strong validation for those of you who've been feeling unusually peaceful lately, especially in the early morning hours between 3 and 5 a.m. That's not random. It's a clear sign that this cycle of separation is completing itself. Your guides want you to know that your strength through this process hasn't just transformed you. It's been the catalyst for their transformation too. For those of you finding yourself suddenly becoming the person others turn to for advice or support, that's your new energy emerging. You've become this incredible source of stability, and yes, they see it too. Every time you help someone else, they feel it. Their higher self is showing me how your growth has been this beautiful mirror for their own journey. The early morning wake-ups, the repeating numbers you've been seeing, those moments when you feel like someone's watching you succeed, these aren't coincidences. They're confirmations that you're exactly where you need to be. Divine timing is so active in your connection right now, orchestrating this final phase of revelation with such precision. I'm being guided to tell you that this isn't just an ending. It's a gateway into something much more authentic. Keep embracing your role as this spiritual warrior. Trust those intuitive hits you're getting, especially when they wake you up early in the morning. Document the synchronicities. They're going to become even more significant. For those of you feeling deeply called to understand more about this divine connection and its purpose, I want you to know that I'm getting such strong guidance about the importance of additional support during this time. This is a complex spiritual journey you're navigating, and sometimes we need that extra guidance to fully understand the messages coming through. If you're feeling pulled to explore this connection more deeply, I offer private readings through my Patreon where we can dive into your specific situation and the unique way this divine timing is unfolding for you. Let's continue this spiritual journey together, supporting each other as we grow and transform. Remember, you're not just growing for yourself, you're lighting the way for them too. Your strength isn't just your own. It's becoming a bridge for authentic connection. Keep shining, beautiful soul. This journey is unfolding exactly as it should.